fieser Cliffhanger, oder? Da sind wir wieder zurück. Upton hat für uns 4 riskiert, die ganze Zeit. Wir werden jetzt was für sie riskieren.
I brought them here, after I made duplicates and took them from the police department.
Nice try, Fordham, but I know for a fact that isn't true. The Ferroduplicator makes a report of every employee who uses it, as well as what was copied. A rather useful feature for instances such as these, wouldn't...
These gadgets are gonna be the undoing of us all.
In any case, I did some digging and discovered some intriguing information. Upton, why have you been passing on classified police information to Mr. Fordham?
Because he's the best detective you ever had on the force, and you know it.
Is that right? Personally, I don't consider getting your partner killed the mark of a great detective.
Suck.
But what's done is done. Constance Upton, your employment with the New Bretagne Police Department is hereby terminated.
But...
I should add that it's only because of your 25 years of dedicated service that I'm not pressing charges against you. But as for you, Fordham, I have enough evidence to place you under arrest for obstruction of justice and interfering with police investigations.
Nein, das macht er nicht. Da hat er nicht die Balls zu, weil wir so viel schon gelöst haben.
Do you have anything to say in your defense before I take you in for questioning?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. I know who the Justice Killer is.
Fordham, if this is your idea of a diversion...
It's true. I found a link in the sketches of the crime scenes.
All right, let's hear it then. What do you think you found?
Aber erstmal will ich dein Wort haben, Kollege Schnürschuh, damit du uns nicht einbuchtest.
I'll tell you if you promise to let me take the case.
Out of the question, Fordham. This is a police matter.
And the police haven't made progress in months. Fordham figured it out in a matter of minutes.
Ja, definitiv. Wir sind richtig heftig.
Admit it, Snelling. Fordham is your best shot at finding the killer.
Sehr gut, Upton.
Are you gonna let your personal differences put the people of this city in danger?
Fine. I'll let you continue to operate as an assistant in this case, if you have actually found something of value. Now, what is this link?
He leaves a single Easter lily at each crime scene. The same type of flowers the burglar and the chum was stealing.
I see. A tenuous link, but plausible. I'll give you until tomorrow afternoon. If you haven't come up with anything, I'm throwing you in jail.
Was ist das für ein dummer... Das ist so dumm. Wie soll er denn jetzt innerhalb von einem Tag das lösen, was die Polizei in einem Monat nicht hingekriegt hat? Oder 5 Monate, oder was das jetzt war?
Sounds fair to me.
Ach Gott. Ich löse das einfach und dann befreie ich mich auch von der Depression.
And don't get any clever ideas about leaving town, either.
Come now, would I do something like that?
Fordham, it seems there's no telling what you might do. I'm probably a fool for not clapping you in irons right here and now. When you have something to report, come find me in my office. Don't make me regret this.
Well, that went better than I expected.
Naja.
Except you're still fired. I didn't have a chance to get him to change his mind.
We'll worry about that after you catch the killer. In the meantime, I could use a drink. I'll see you later, Fordham.
Well, better get to work then. The clock is ticking.
Definitiv. Was steht in der Zeitung? So, Kreuzfeuer im Wahlbetrug, Massenmörder, versetzt Bürger und Amt in Angst und Schrecken. Spiritualist aus die Maxwell wurde gestern unter Betrugsverdacht festgenommen. Umfassende verdeckte Ermittlungen der Polizei von New Bretagne haben ans Tageslicht gebracht, dass sie ihre Kunden um mehr Geld gebracht hat. Der Ermittler Lester Barnett hat unter falschem Namen an mehreren Sitzungen teilgenommen und hat mit Maxwells falsches Spiel durchleuchtet. Sie behauptete, ihr Klient sei verflucht und dann würde sie anbieten, ihn gegen eine Gebühr zu heilen. Die Kunden bezahlten nach und nach exorbitant hohe Summen, um von diesem Fluch geheilt zu werden. Ein Vertreter der Polizei von New Bretagne warnte, wir bitten die Öffentlichkeit, bei Spiritualisten hellhörig zu werden. Aha. Gut, dass wir das gemacht haben. Also, dass wir aufgepasst haben. Gut, los geht's. Zeit, den Mörder zu finden. Parlament, Polizeirevier, Parlament.
Fordham, what brings you to this delightful spectacle?
Wo ist die Lilie?
Hello, Edwards. I'm investigating the Justice Killer. I believe I've got a very promising lead.
I heard an officer mention new orders from Snelling, but I thought he was just pulling my leg.
Was habe ich gerade gesagt? Die Osterlilie? Habe ich das gesagt oder nicht? Ich weiß es nicht mehr.
Feel free to have a look around. I'm just writing up the notes from my initial examination of the body, so I'll be happy to share my findings.
Good. I'll just get started then.
Gut.
Nothing but a bunch of boring documents. You'd think he could have at least been considerate enough to keep something scandalous in here. Looks pretty fresh. I wonder what the killer uses to write with.
Naja, Finger. Oh Gott, stellt euch mal vor, der schießt den im Kopf, steckt den Finger in die Wunde, wühlt da drin rum und...
Odd. The page for this month has been torn out. You suppose Edwards might know anything about that?
Naja, wie ist der reingekommen? Der wird ja nicht wie ein Geist rein teleportiert sein, sondern der wird einen Termin gehabt haben.
Nothing has been written in yet for next month. Curious.
Ist das vielleicht überhaupt nicht der richtige Kalender?
Leave it to a politician to hang a portrait of himself in his own office.
Sowieso weird. Aber
No signs of forced entry that I can see. The murderer didn't come in through this window.
ja, der ist halt... Ja, der hat einen Termin gehabt.
History books and political theory. I might die of boredom. Again. These appear to
Ups. Kryptographie.
be books on cryptography. I suppose everyone needs a The former Percival McDonough, being a good politician.
Gut, ich denke, wir müssen mit ihm mal reden.
Got a moment, Edwards?
Of course. What's on your mind?
So, what was found at the crime scene?
A dead body.
Edwards.
Hey, just trying to lighten the mood a bit. Anyway, there was also the word justice written in blood, as you can see on the floor there.
Is that all?
What more do you need? All the pieces are in place. This is the work of the Justice Killer.
Das ist ein Nachahmer. Das ist ein Nachahmer, liebe Kinder. Das ist ein Nachahmer. Die 4 waren alle im Cham. Überall war eine Osterlilie. Und hier nicht. Da hat sich jemand einfach aufs Trittbrett gestellt. Fragen wir uns durch, komm.
What did your examination of the body turn up?
Apparent cause of death was a single gunshot to the head, exactly like all the other victims. The bullet is still lodged in his brain. I'll remove it once I transport the body back to the mortuary.
Anything else?
No personal effects of note, just a folded up piece of paper in his breast pocket. It's blank, so the police weren't interested. I assume you aren't either.
Never assume, Edwards. I'll take it if you don't mind.
Be my guest.
Did the police manage to learn anything during their investigation?
Not much beyond what I've already told you. I think they were planning on speaking to the victim's wife, though.
Did you get the address?
I did, as a matter of fact. 1820 Kent Place.
Now we get to deal with the grieving widow. Hopefully the officers who delivered the news got the worst of it.
What's your take on this whole Justice Killer situation?
It's giving me a lot of extra work, let me tell you. We haven't had a serial murderer in a long time. Not since that fellow who was poisoning people about 10 years ago.
Ah, yes. The Gascon Ghoul. Now there was a case.
Any theories or insights regarding the killer's motive or identity?
That's not really my specialty. If you want to get into that psychology stuff, you're better off talking to someone like Snelling.
Okay, gehen wir auch noch hin.
Did you find an Easter lily anywhere?
An Easter lily?
Yes, the Justice Killer leaves one at every crime scene. Neither did anyone else, apparently.
Das manchmal löst meine linke Maustaste zweimal hintereinander aus. Meine Maus ist ziemlich kaputt. Sorry, dass das hier manchmal untergeht.
So how does leaving a lily at the scene of the crime figure into all of this?
I'm still trying to figure that out, but I think it might be important to understanding his motive.
Müssten vielleicht mal rauskriegen, was die Osterlilie bedeutet. Also es ist eine Totenblume, meine ich. Vielleicht sind die anderen sozusagen damit redeemed worden mit der Osterlilie, also erlöst worden. Und der Politiker, der war so schlimm, dass er ihn nicht erlösen wollte, sozusagen.
Well, be sure to let me know if you do figure it out. The thought process of killers is a twisted, curious thing.
Das kann natürlich sein. Na, mal gucken. Vielleicht ist es aber auch ein Trittbrettfahrer.
Edwards, did you notice McDonough's desk calendar?
I did. This month has been torn out. I asked the officers investigating the scene, and they had no idea what happened to it.
So it wasn't found in this room?
That's right. My theory is that the killer took it.
Which means there was probably something incriminating written on it. If only there was some way of knowing what it was.
Miles, have you forgotten the oldest trick in the book? Just find a pencil and you'll have that information in no time.
Ich weiß.
Edwards, do you have a pencil I might borrow?
Of course. Take this one.
Thank you.
Das ist wirklich der Klassiker.
That's all.
Good luck.
So.
A classic trick. Let's see if it works.
Ja, muss er schon doll aufgedrückt haben. Oh, darf wieder. Gucken, Ruby und Shagley. Hier oben kann ja eigentlich nichts stehen. Das sind leere Blätter einfach nur.
Aha! McDonough met with this person the night of the murder. I'll bet 500 crowns it's a false name, but at least it's something.
Ja, okay. Und du? Wie komme ich jetzt hier raus? Ich komme ja hier weg. Ja, ich... Escape? Ich muss noch mehr was finden, oder was? Na gut, dann male ich mal alles an, wa?
Intriguing. We'll need to find out who this Ruby is.
Mhm.
It seems the killer didn't want anyone to know about this meeting with McDonough, and possibly not with Ruby either.
Okay, können wir jetzt... Ah,
Got a moment?
Of course.
so. Ah,
That's all.
Good luck.
gut, wir haben hier nichts gefunden. Ich bin mir nicht ganz sicher, was das alles bedeuten soll. Wir gehen erstmal... Wir gehen zum Polizeirevier und sprechen mit Snelling. Komm.
Fordham, how goes the investigation?
I'm making some headway.
Is that right? I certainly hope so for your...
Chief Snelling?
Yes, Fordham?
So.
Listen, about Leger's death.
I don't want to hear it, Fordham. What happened, happened. Nothing you can say is going to change my opinion on the matter.
And if I manage to find the man responsible?
The man responsible is standing before me. Even if you manage to find the culprit you let escape, it isn't going to bring Leger back from the dead.
But it will bring closure to the matter.
If that thought is what allows you to sleep at night, then so be it.
What makes him think you sleep at night?
What information do you have on the Justice Killer?
Clearly not as much as you.
I see how this is gonna go.
Well, what do you have?
A list of 5 victims, some information on each of them, and no clear idea what connects them. Until your discovery of the lily at each scene, that was where we stood.
Oh.
While I doubt this discovery will do much to aid in tracking him down, I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Do you know anything about Percival McDonough?
He's a member of Parliament. I believe his constituency is somewhere in central Kingsland.
Mhm.
From the reports I've gotten, McDonough led a rather unassuming life for a politician. He is, however, the first victim who didn't live in Chumley. Either there's a link we've missed, or the killer is changing his method. Then again, since you seem so confident in your abilities to resolve this matter, I assume you'll provide an explanation.
Schaffe ich, glaube ich, nicht mehr diese Folge, aber ich gebe Gas.
What do you know about the Justice Killer's previous victims?
Only what's in their files. All working men from Chumley. That's the only link.
You didn't look further into their personal lives? Maybe they had some social connection.
As I said, the detectives found nothing. You seem to think you can do better, so I'll leave it up to you.
You have to wonder how much more thorough the department's investigations would have been if the 4 men were all rich like McDonough.
Ah, das ist tatsächlich, eigentlich in der Theorie ist ja vor dem Gesetz jeder gleich. Ich habe nicht das Gefühl. Aber...
So I see the department is still running like a well-oiled machine.
It is, in fact. But I'm sure Upton has kept you well informed of our activities. Incidentally, the woman accused in the Harris kidnapping is set to testify in court today.
Linda Walker's trial is today? That was fast.
Indeed. Sometimes the wheels of justice grind slowly. Sometimes they spin out of control. She'll be taking the stand within the hour. If you care to hear her for yourself, best get going soon.
Okay. Vielleicht finden wir ja da noch was raus.
Enjoying your new position, Snelling?
Reaping the rewards for years of hard work and dedicated service. A gratifying feeling you'll never be able to experience.
Oh, I get my gratification in other ways.
I'm sure you do, and I'd honestly rather not know about them.
I need to get back to my
Yeah.
Okay, also hier können wir nicht mehr viel machen.
The rumor was always that the chief kept a bottle of something in a secret compartment in this cabinet. In Snelling's case, it's probably just water.
Okay. So.
Remind me, Miles, why are we here again? Is this for your own personal satisfaction, or did you expect her to have some useful information?
Ich weiß es ehrlich gesagt nicht. Tja. Ich dachte nur, ich bin ein bisschen geprägt ja von diesem letzten Ereignis, was wir da hatten. Mit der Opiumbar, dass ich einfach jetzt dachte, ich gehe hier schnell hin, damit das nicht vorbei ist. Dass ein interner Timer weiterläuft oder sowas. Und deswegen bin ich hier jetzt halt schnell hin. Mal gucken, was dabei dann rumkommt. So. Und mal hören, was er zu sagen hat, oder?
Shh. Mrs. Linda Walker, you stand accused of kidnapping Charles Harris. What have you to say in your defense?
I had to see if I could speak with my son Alexander again.
Yes. According to your initial statement, you seem to believe that the Harris child is the reincarnation of your own deceased son.
All the evidence was there. I thought it had to be him.
And in regards to the execution of your plan, you secretly administered a soporific drug to your friend and the Harris family nanny, Mrs. Henrietta Davis? Is that correct?
Wie funktioniert denn das jetzt, dass wir... Hätten wir sie nicht angeklagt, sondern aufgegeben, würden wir hier gar nicht sitzen, dann würden wir jetzt keine Infos kriegen. Henriette Davis. Eine schlaftonicumartige Droge ihrer Freundin Mrs. Henriette Davis, dem Kindermädchen. Also Henriette Davis hat das Schlaftonikum gemixt.
Yes. I felt terrible about doing it, but there was no other way.
According to your journal, you used a mixture of chamomile and valerian, instructed by a Samuel, if I'm not mistaken.
Kamille und Baldrian. Ich schreibe mir das mal auf. Kamille, Baldrian und Samuel. Jetzt frage ich mich natürlich, warum wir hier sitzen und das hören. Ist Samuel vielleicht der Osterlilienkiller?
Yes. Samuel is a friend of mine. He works at the docks, and he knows all about plants. I asked him what the best combination of herbs would be to put someone in a deep sleep.
So it was your idea, and not his?
Yes, that's right. He only told me about the plants. He's quite the expert. Why, you should see his collection of Easter lilies.
Ist das geil. Weil wir den Fall mit ihr richtig gelöst haben, wissen wir jetzt, dass Samuel unser Killer ist. Killer. Dogs. Samuel ist der Osterlilienkiller. Ist das geil? Guck mal, ich habe noch nie ein Adventure gehabt, was so geradlinig in diesen ganzen Detectives, Hinweis suchen, Fälle lösen Geschichte ist. Hammer!
Did she just say what I think she said?
Yes, Bill, wir sind so nah dran, Alter!
Now then, let's turn our attention to the night in question.
I'd make a note of it, just in case it becomes relevant
Das war
later.
schon wieder der Doppelklick. Ich lade noch mal kurz und wir sehen uns hier gleich wieder. Bis gleich. So, leider war der Quick-Save, sozusagen der Map-Save, überschrieben. Ich musste nochmal den Case 5 jetzt bis hierhin spielen. Jetzt sind wir hier. Ich drücke ganz vorsichtig.
Did she just say what I think she...
Now then, let's turn our attention to the night in question.
Los geht's. Einmal.
Interesting. This Samuel person might be worth looking into. Although we can't waste time searching the docs with just the first name.
Vielleicht gibt's ja mehr Infos noch.
I'd make a note of it, just in case it becomes relevant later.
Schade, schade. Ich habe gedacht, wir kriegen so mehr und all den... Ach Mensch, na gut. Ach, so ein Ärger.
All right, I've had enough of this courtroom. Let's get back out there. Time's running out.
Schande. Okay, jetzt läuft die Zeit davon. Ich weiß nicht, ob wir tatsächlich hier jetzt zeitlich ein bisschen begrenzt sind. Ich speichere mal. So, ob wir das jetzt noch hinkriegen?
What? Who are you?
I'm Miles Fordham, private investigator. Your butler just announced me.
Oh, of course. Forgive me. I was just, well, never mind. Please make yourself comfortable, Mr. Fordham.
Thank you, Mrs. McDonough.
Ja, wir können uns hier ein bisschen umgucken. Liegt hier schon mal eine Osterlilie vielleicht? Erstmal.
I appreciate you seeing me, Mrs. McDonough. I know you must be going through a difficult time right now.
What exactly is it you want from me, Mr. Fordham? I already spoke to the police about my husband's murder.
I just have a few questions of my own.
Oh, very well.
Okay, das machen wir noch eben durch hier und dann ist gut.
What can you tell me about your husband?
I'll tell you the same thing I told the police, Mr. Fordham. Percival was one of the hardest working members of Parliament. He took his job extremely seriously. The recent election caused him a terrible amount of consternation, as I'm sure it did most people. He took Atwood's loss rather hard.
Did you see much of him?
I beg your pardon?
Surely someone with such an important position in government could find themselves consumed by their work. Did he spend much time at home?
He made it a point to come home and have dinner with me every night, even if he had to return to the office afterwards.
And did that happen often?
At least 3 or 4 times in a week, yes. He'd stay in his office working late into the night. As I said, he was very dedicated to his role.
Sounds to me like she's quite dedicated to hers, too.
Did your husband have any enemies?
He was a politician, Mr. Fordham. Half the city hated him.
Did he ever receive any kind of threats against his life?
None that I was ever made aware of. I have no idea who could have killed him, let alone who could have gotten into his office to do it. He hadn't told me about any meetings or appointments this week either.
Was it his custom to inform you of his work affairs?
Oh, well, I've always taken an interest in my husband's work. He'd often mention initiatives he was working on or people he was meeting, that sort of thing. Nothing sensitive or confidential, you understand. Just conversation about his day.
Can you think of any reason why your husband would have been murdered?
Not really. He was a vocal opponent of the construction of the Gascogne-Chumley Bridge, but I hardly think that would have been sufficient reason to drive someone to murder.
4 Leute in Chumley umgebracht. Einer will die Brücke bauen.
Why is that?
Well, it's just a bridge, isn't it? There are plenty of other ways to get to Chumley.
I meant, why was he opposed to it?
Oh, because the amount of money required to build it is exorbitant. Public funds should be used on roads and buildings that are falling apart. What's the point of having something shiny and new if everything around it is in disrepair?
Vielleicht könnte man ja dieses Armenviertel auch ein bisschen unter die Arme greifen.
Do you know anyone named Shackley?
No, I've never heard that name before. Why?
I saw your husband had a meeting scheduled with him shortly before his murder.
That can't be right. He didn't tell me about that. He always told me about his meetings.
It was written on his office calendar, clear as day.
As I said, I don't know who that person is. Why wouldn't Percival have told me about their meeting?
Why indeed?
Tja,
Are you familiar with someone named Ruby?
I can't say I am. Who is
auch
it?
nicht. Es hat da was verheimlicht.
Just a name that's come up in my investigation.
Sounds like the name of a trollop. Or perhaps a dog.
Vielleicht hat er auch eine Affäre gehabt. Kann auch sein.
Have you heard of the Justice Killer?
That was the name the police mentioned when they told me about Percival's murder. It's absolutely terrifying to think that one sick person could be capable of such evil. Why is he called the Justice Killer? What justice was done by murdering my husband?
I'm afraid I can't answer that right now, Mrs. McDonough, but I intend to find out. How are you feeling, Mrs. McDonough?
My husband of 42 years was shot in his office. How do you think I feel?
Tja, nicht gut, würde ich sagen.
Tactful as always, Fordham. How do you do it?
My apologies. Perhaps that wasn't the most appropriate question. Is there anything I can do to help?
You can start by finding the monster who murdered Percival.
Das mache ich.
Those are all the questions I have.
Oh,
Okay. Wunderbärchen. Das war die Folge für heute. Sehr ereignisreich. Samuel, mein lieber Freund, dich komme ich eintüten. Und wir sehen uns morgen wieder. Bis dann. Ciao.